What's up YouTube? Robbie Vapes, back with another video. Today we're going to talk about a few things. I want to start by saying I think I might have a problem. This is now going to be my third sub-ohm tank I've purchased. I don't know why I have three of them. I probably don't need three of them. But I decided, because of all the reviews I've seen and all the good things people have been saying about this, to go out and get the Delta II by Joyetech and just spend a little bit more money because I can apparently, is the Joyetech RBA component as well. So today we're going to be unboxing both of these. I'm going to give you my first impressions when we're doing the unboxing. I'm going to take a quick break, vape on it for about an hour, come back, and then I'll actually have a full review on it, pros, cons, things like that, how I feel it stacks up. And then we'll do a separate video on a head-to-head between the Delta II, the Magnus, and the Pro Tank Mini as well. So with that being said, let's get started and let's see what we get in the packaging. And we're back. Here we are up close with the Delta II by Joyetech. We have the RBA section right here. We'll put that to the side for now. Let's get to unboxing the tank itself and see the back of it here. So it says it has a range of 25 to 50 watts. I'm a little bit worried because apparently, according to the guys I got it from, the user manual only says up to 40 watts. I don't know if that's going to be enough for me. I really like the Magnus because I can do that high wattage type vape, and it's really fulfilling. I'll show you what I'm vaping it at right now so you can see it here. This is on the Magnus, 65 watts, 4.4 volts, 0.3 ohms, and the Magnus tank's on there. So I do like a little bit of a warmer vape. I don't know how this one will perform at 40 watts or 50 watts or whatever. The RBA piece is going to be a big part of this because it'll let me go to a little bit further than what the manufacturer coils can do. But anyways, just a bit of a comment before I get into this too much. So we have the packaging here. Pretty nice packaging. Pretty simple. I like simple. But then again, I don't really care about the packaging. I care about how it performs. So let's actually unbox this guy and see what we get inside. Should be enough. Take off the wrapper. Okay, and there we go. We now have the Delta II box. See if we can take this off. So first thing we get is the manuals, what's included, warranty card. Put that off to the side. User manual, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I like that it's small. So you can see here, make sure you prime your wick before you use it. Not too bad. Looks pretty good. Let's put that aside though. No one cares about that, and let's get to the goods. So here's the tank itself. Let's actually do the coil head first. So here we have the coil head. This is a... see if we can get the camera to focus here. Let's actually zoom in on this. It should work better that way. Okay, so right on the coil it says 20 to 45 watts, 0.5 ohms. Not bad. You got three pretty good juice wells, or whatever you want to call it, where the juice is going to go into. Looks like you can adjust it really easily too. So that's kind of cool. So that is the coils you get. Take a look inside. It is organic cotton, which is nice. I do like the organic cotton. I don't know how I'd feel about anything else. I've been using it for so long with my RDAs. I'm hoping that this one will be just as good as RDAs for flavor-wise. So let's put that aside here. Let's grab the tank out next. So here we have the Delta II. Here's the tank. Joyetech logo down there. Some air holes down there, and those are actually a lot smaller than I thought. I mean, those are tiny, tiny air holes. I'm hoping that's not an issue, but I will tell you once I have a chance to vape on this what I feel like, or how I feel about it. Let's take off the drip tip here. Should be 510 connection. Pretty wide bore actually, I like that. That's not too bad. A little bit stiff, but it's not an issue. Just get that back on there. There we have the connection pin. I think it's stainless, but could be wrong. Let's see. Looks pretty sturdy. Not too much at the bottom there. These vent holes, or I know they're not vent holes, but I guess the view holes where you can see how much juice you have, they are extremely hard to see into. I cannot even see my finger on the other side of the tank, although they might be misaligned, so that might be why. In fact, they are. If we look right here, we can see my finger. So they're actually, is there 3 of them? Yeah, there's actually 3 of these, sorry. I thought there was only 2. That would explain it. So yeah, so you have 3 of these little vent holes you can look into. Not super clear, but I'm hoping to be able to see through it enough that I can find my juice. You know what, we'll wait to open this up, see if there's anything else in the packaging. I don't believe there is. Looks just be blank, so you don't get any extra glass or anything like that. Although, with how it's built, I don't think it's going to be an issue. It's going to be pretty hard to break this glass. See if you get an extra coil head in here. So if there's one in here, it means you get an extra one. If there's not, then you only get one, which would be extremely disappointing. But let's open it up and find out. Pretty easy to screw out. There's a coil head, so you do get 2 of them. Let's focus on here so you can see the bottom there. Relatively good connection pin. Nothing too crazy. We see here we have the coil. Same one, I believe, just make sure. 20 to 45 watts, 0.5 ohms. And you have the canister itself, or the tank itself. It's pretty narrow juice well right here. It's going to be tough to get it in, but it's not going to be too bad. If you saw my Magnus review, you know the sidewells on it were just a nightmare to get in. This is actually a lot better. It's no sub-tank. The sub-tank by far has the greatest ease of access as far as dripping into it goes. This one, it's not bad. It's kind of an in-between. I can get down there even with a dripper, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. All in all, not super upset about it. This part up here looks to be permanent, so let's not mess with that. Yeah, it's not too bad. So that appears to be the basic features of it. Nothing too complex. Relatively simple. Yeah, so I guess what I'll do now, I will cut the video out here. I'm going to take about an hour or so and actually vape on this thing so I can give you my overall pros and cons, first impressions, things like that. It won't be like my other 2 videos where I took a week straight to vape on it. I want to make this all one video, so I'm just going to release it all at once. I imagine it's going to be a pretty long video, so I apologize in advance, but I'm going to vape on this. I'll be back, and when I come back, I'll tell you what I think about it. Sorry guys, I got a little bit too excited there and jumped the gun. I actually completely forgot to unbox the Joyetech RBA component. So let's get into that real quick. Got a little excited there, couldn't wait to try it, and all of a sudden I look over as soon as I hit end on the record button and saw this guy laying here, so we're gonna unbox this thing. First thing we find is some cotton. Looks to be, I think, Japanese cotton in here, so not too bad. Let's just actually take a feel of this. I'll tell you for sure. I have plenty of Japanese cotton, so I really don't need this, but it's always nice when someone includes it. Oh yeah, that's definitely Japanese cotton. I mean, it's just fluffy as hell. This stuff is amazing. So that's pretty nice. Like I said, I don't need it. I have tons of it, but it's always nice when they include it. In here we have the actual RDA itself. Then we have some what appears to be O-rings and some screws. And actually that's not an O-ring, that looks to be Kanthal. So it's kind of nice they included that because all I have is 24 gauge Kanthal and I have a good feeling it won't fit on this. Just a hunch, but after you see what you have to build on, it's gonna be a little bit harder to build on 24 gauge. Anyways, RBA, let's put that aside for a second. Let's take the stuff out that you get. Get a screwdriver. You get some extra screws, which I'll leave those in the bag. You can see them down there. And this is definitely Kanthal, and I would probably even say it's 30 gauge, maybe even 32. I mean, this stuff is small, but it'll be good to work with, so I guess I can't really complain. The screws just came out of the bag, which is what I didn't want to happen. Alright, so we got the screws back in the bag, finally. They're really, really small. It might be a little bit hard to work on, to be honest, if that's the size that's in here, which I would imagine it would be, but they are really small. So let's take this guy out of the packaging. Let's check it out. RBA, Joyetech logo. Quick 360, you can look inside. It does come with a pre-built coil, which is kind of nice, and some cotton in there. Pretty good airflow through there. Let's see if we can take it off. So let's take the top part off first. Not too bad, easy to take off. This one's actually really easy to take off. The one thing I find with my sub tank, maybe it's just 'cause I have some juice in there, but it is super hard to remove this thing from here. Okay, so there it is. Looks to be a pretty nice build, actually. Nice and fluffy cotton. I don't know what this is reading at. I would assume it's probably around the 0.5 mark, like their factory coils are, but I could be wrong. You can see the airflow just down through there, if you look closely. And again, those really tiny screws are on there. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. Now the reason why I said it was going to be tough to build 24 gauge on here is because if you look here, this is actually where it's attached. See if I can move the cotton away. But do you see here where it's actually like right beside my finger? There's like a little hole in there. And that's actually where it feeds through. That's going to be tough. I mean, this is probably, like I said, 30, 32 gauge Canthal on here. And it's, I wouldn't say it's tight, but it's by no means loose. So so I think that's going to be a pain to work on. Like I said, it's by no means loose. It looks to be pretty tight in there. The only thing is, you know, you could probably just tie it around these screws if you really wanted to. But again, 24 gauge is going to be really tough to work with on here. I'm happy they include Canthal, but I'm a little disappointed I can't use 24 gauge on it, or even 26 it looks like. Like this is going to be like 28 gauge tops, I would assume. If you've done a build on this and you can tell me that you've done, you know, a 26 or 24 gauge build, like let me know. I would love to see it. But this, yeah, it's going to be tough to work on. Am I disappointed in it? Not really. I mean, it's not terrible. It's just I would have preferred to have a bit better of a bit better space to work on. So, I mean, that's just my preference. Screw that back on. Take the top part, put this one back on. And there you have it, the RBA component of the Joyetech Delta II. Now, I'm finally going to get the chance to vape on the Delta II for a while. I may actually throw this factory coil on for a bit as well, just so I can review both of them and tell you my thoughts. I won't be doing a build on this, at least not now. I may do one in the future, but I'll just use a factory one they have in here. It doesn't look too bad. So I'm going to get to vaping on this thing, and then I'll be back in about an hour or two, let you guys know what my thoughts are, pros and cons, things like that, and how it produces vapor and how it competes to what I have now. Alright, I'll be back soon, YouTube.
And we're back. It's been about 3 hours I've been using this thing, just this thing. I haven't used the Magnus at all yet. I've just been using the Joyetech Delta II. We're now back with it. I'm going to give you my overall thoughts, my reviews, pros, cons, and I'm also going to vape it at 6 different wattages, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50 watts, which is the maximum that this e-leaf can go up to. This is the iStick 50 watt. You know, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to tell you about the pros and cons as I go through the wattage. Let's start at 25 watts, and I'll show you what it vapes at 25 watts. So here's at 25 watts. It's reading at 3.8 volts, and the coil is reading at 0.6 ohms. Here's what it looks like. That was 25 watts. That was probably about a 5-second pull. Perfect flavor. The vapor wasn't that bad. It was, for 25 watts, it's definitely acceptable. Nothing to complain about.
One thing I want to talk about though, before we go any higher, and we'll do as I'm talking about, I'll set it up to 30 watts so we can set it up in advance. These air holes, by the way, they don't look like much, but man was I surprised. These air holes deliver. I mean, I would maybe even say it might be better than the Magnus airflow. It's pretty damn good. So we're up to 30 watts now. I'm gonna take another hit. Let's focus on the airflow and how easy it is to take these hits. This is wide open, by the way. That's pretty much how I vape. Everything is wide open. I love me some airflow. So at 30 watts, let's take a hit and I'll show you what you get. Perfect. For all you guys who have the DNA 30s out there, this is a pretty good tank. It definitely delivers at 30 watts. You're at 4.2 volts at 30 watts. It's delivering. You know, the tank itself is just so well built. I'm going to talk about it as I'm cranking up to 35 watts next. These little slits on the side here, the ones that everybody was kind of complaining about, that you can't really see how much liquid you have left, they're not that bad. I can definitely see pretty clearly how much I have left. And I'm actually running low. This would be my third tank in just 3 hours. So you go through vapor pretty quickly. I've been vaping at about 37.5 watts, which I think is a sweet spot. This is at 35 watts. Let's take a hit off this, and I'll show you what it looks like at 35 watts. Again, really good vapor production. The flavor in this, at 35 watts, that's when it really starts to pick up. I'm really noticing the flavor. It's a very nice flavor. This is the exact same juice I had in my sub tank, and I actually think it tastes better in this. This is the Mount Baker Vapor Hawk Sauce, which kind of brings me back. That was actually the first juice I used to quit smoking. I hadn't done it in a while. I figured I'd change it up, and I am loving it, especially in this tank. At 35 watts, nothing to complain about. The vapor's there. You know, it's not as dense as an RDA, but it's not supposed to be. All in all, it's a really nice clearomizer, and this thing works. I'm not even going to talk about the RBA quality because the RBA statistics on it, because I didn't even try it out. The factory coils are that good. Some downsides. We'll crank it up to 40 watts, and I'll tell you some downsides. And it's suitable I talk about this one now, because at 40 watts, this is when you start to get your first negative, or the first downside you really start to experience at about 40 watts. And this drip tip is going to get hot. It's going to be pretty warm at 40 watts. Anything at about 40 watts, it definitely starts to heat up. Now there is definitely some room for improvement, but at the same time, the downsides that this thing has are not that bad, because there are fixes for them. Now I'll get into that in a second. Let's take a hit at 40 watts. We're at 40 watts, 4.8 volts, and here it is. .6 seconds. At about 4.5 seconds, it started heating up, and I got a little bit of a hot drip tip. The juice is still perfect. The flavor is still there. There's no dry hits. There's no burnt taste. The flavor is there in the juice. It's just a drip tip that gets a little bit hot at about 4.5 seconds on the 40 watt mod, or at the 40 watt mode. So let's move it up to 45. This is where it starts to get a little bit painful. So the fix for that, the drip tip, like I said, it does get hot. But because it's a 510 drip tip, you can actually change it out for something that might be all Delrin or something that doesn't get quite as hot, so you don't feel it. So you can still do 40, 45, 50 watts even, without having that worry. So yes, it's a downside that the factory drip tip came with. It does heat up a little bit at 40 watts, but there's a fix for it. So it's not that bad. If this is your first tank, or if you don't have any other tanks to compare it to, or all your other drip tips are stainless steel like this one, you know, you're gonna have that same problem. You may have to go out and spend an extra $5 to get a Delrin drip tip. No big deal. I mean, for what you're getting here, it's really impressive. This thing has blown me away. So that's the first negative. The second one I'll get to in a second, but this is at 45 watts, so this is what it hits at 45 watts. I'll probably only be able to do about 4 seconds of this before this thing gets hot. So let's hit it. .9 seconds. I kind of went through it a little bit more than I wanted to. I pushed myself a little bit. It was starting to get hot. My lips are a little bit burnt right now, but the flavor, it's still there.
no burnt taste, no dry hits. It's still got the flavor. We're gonna crank this thing up to max at 50 watts. I had tried it at 55, same thing, no burnt taste, no dry hits, just this tip got really, really hot at 55 watts. So at 50 watts, we're now sitting at 5.4 volts, and this is what it looks like at 50 watts. .1 seconds. Again, the taste is there, the vapor production is there, it's just this tip does get hot. Change it out for a Delrin tip, problem solved. It does have a Delrin insulator in the tip. It doesn't seem to be working past 40 watts, but I mean, it's to be expected. It hits really well. The flavor, I can't stop talking about the flavor. It's just so good. This is better than the Subtank Mini's flavor. And if you watched my Subtank Mini review, you know that the flavor got a really high score. And after using this, that score is going to change because this thing is phenomenal. Like this is one of the best clear misers I've ever used, and I know I've only used 3 of the sub-ohm tanks, but this competes with the Magnus really well. I'm an RDA guy, so I like a lot of vapor. The Magnus definitely has the vapor production, but this thing has a flavor, and it's oddly satisfying. It's hard to describe, but it really is oddly satisfying. You don't get as much vapor, but you feel satisfied after hitting it. So at 50 watts, really nice. I'm going to turn it down to my 37.5 watts, which is where I think the sweet spot is. Really nice. You can take long hits, you get a lot of flavor, you get enough vapor out of it, and you don't have to worry about this thing heating up. So let's move on to the second con, because there really is only 2. The second con is that I did get quite a bit of leakage out of these air holes when I first started using it, and there's a fix for that as well. So I'm using a 50-50 blend, I believe is what this is. So it's pretty runny, but it's definitely, it had some leakage, but the fix for that is, if you remember on the coil, you can turn it to adjust how much goes in and out. And since I've cut off a little bit, probably about maybe a third of the wicking, it seemed to be better. I haven't got any leakage yet from doing that, so I mean, it sounded gimmicky at first to have a little twisty thing, but it works. And I'm assuming for a higher VG blend, it would be no problem to open that up, and I don't think you'd have the dripping. And if you did, just tighten it a little bit, and it'll be fine. Those are the only 2 cons I can really think of. The drip well, or the side wells on here, where it's a little bit close to the sides to try and get the liquid in, it's nowhere near as bad as the Magnus was. It's definitely acceptable. I can use this spout. I don't even have to use a needle tip on it. I can use this spout, which is a pretty wide spout. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a pretty wide spout, and I can get it in there no problem without anything going in the middle or in the drip tip part. It's there. It's good. I mean, the pros, the flavor's good. The tank quality build, it's really nice. It doesn't come with a spare glass, but because it's kind of surrounding the stainless steel, you're gonna have a hard time breaking this. Let's put it that way. I haven't dropped it yet, but I would imagine it's gonna be tough to break. It's built well. Apart from that, I mean, everything else in this is just really nice. Overall, I mean, this definitely competes with everything else out there. So the big question is, do I recommend it? And there's really two or three options out there to how I would recommend this. If you're in the market for a sub-tank and you haven't bought one yet, but you're looking to buy one, at $40, so that's the other thing, the price point, $40, same price as a sub-tank mini, this thing just blew me away. Sure, you have to spend an extra 20 or so, or 15, depending on where you are, to get the RBA quality of it, and honestly, I don't know if you want to get that. If you really like building, by all means, go get the RBA adapter to it. But if you're just looking for a nice, satisfying vape, you know, something to hold you over while you're driving, or something like that, I mean, this is it. This is definitely it. So the big question: if you're in the market for a sub tank, is it worth $40? I think it is. I really do. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you get this thing. It's phenomenal. It really is. The second recommendation: if you already have a sub tank mini, is it worth it to go and get this? And again, I think it is, but it depends on what your needs are. If you don't like the sub tank mini because you feel you're not getting enough vapor and you're a dripper like myself, you may want to skip this and get something like the Magnus, where you can go up to that 180 watt on the 180 watt draws. At 50 to 60 watts, you'll still get it, but keep in mind, change the drip about. Make sure it doesn't get too hot. I haven't pushed past 60, just because it got way too hot for me. The tip, not the vapor. The vapor was still really nice. Really, those air holes do a ton for this thing. So, if you already have a sub tank, do you go and get this? Again, if you're looking for a lot more vapor, I think you're going to want to go with the Magnus. If you're looking for more vapor, but also the flavor, then I say, yeah, go out and get one of these. These things are phenomenal. I love this thing. I'm so happy I bought this thing. Even with having the Magnus and the sub tank already, I'm really happy I bought this. The third thing, if you already have something like the Magnus or the Arctic, something that can go high wattage, is it worth it to get this one? And I mean, I'm biased. I do have a Magnus here, and I'm happy I bought it, and I don't regret my purchase. So for me, I'm happy I got it. I mean, I had the money, so it was fine. If money's tight, do you go out and get this? Is it really that much of a game changer? I don't think it's hugely different from what you may already have. It does the trick. It's really good. But if you already have something, and again, you don't want to be spending all this money on all these sub-ohm tanks, I would say hold off. You know, it really is really well built, and I hate to tell people not to buy it, but again, you have to take into consideration your own finances, you know, what your vape budget might be, and that's really going to be the ultimate factor for you if you already have one of these, or if you have something similar that can compete with it. It comes down to that. So it comes down to personal preference. The big question that I always ask myself when buying anything is, I like to ask this question because I find it's very helpful to give you, the viewers, an idea of what I think of it ultimately. The question is, would I rather keep this, or would I rather have my $40 back? If I had the option to trade this back in, I got my $40 back, what would I do? I'd keep this. I love it. I am so happy I got this thing. Like, there is nothing wrong with this thing. And the few things that are wrong with it can be fixed without putting too much money into it, if any. So with that being said, ultimately, this thing just blew me away. I recommend it, and that's just, it's just my opinion, but I think you guys would be happy if you bought this. I really do. Next thing I want to talk about, so we've talked about the Delta II. I do want to mention something, and it's really important to me. So I want to thank all of you guys again for all of the support you guys have shown me. My video has now reached over 500 views. I think it's actually almost at 600 views, my first one, which is phenomenal. I mean, I'm blown away. That being said, my next couple of videos have not hit that kind of following yet. And I want to ask you guys, the viewers, what do you think? What was it about that first video that you loved so much? Or maybe you didn't like it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you didn't like it. If you didn't, that's fine. But I want to ask you guys, what should I be doing next? Put in the comments below what you want me to do next. Should I be doing more reviews of clearmisers or RDAs? Should I be doing more coil builds? Should I be reviewing some box mods or some mech mods? What do you guys want to see? Should I be doing juice reviews? Let me know, because I want to make these videos so that you guys enjoy watching them. I want you guys to enjoy watching them as much as I enjoy creating them. And with that being said, it's all up to you guys. Let me know what you want to see going forward. I will do my best to accommodate. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I cannot thank you guys enough. Huge support. Cannot believe how successful it's been so far. And I owe it all to you guys. So thank you very much. And until next time, YouTube, happy vaping.